Welcome back to another episode of The View from 32, the 1932 Criterion Theater podcast. Today with us we have Brian Kupiec. Brian is a local singer-songwriter as well as the organizer of several live jams and happy hour music nights around MDI. Enjoy. So welcome back to another episode of The View from 32, our 1932 Criterion Theater podcast. Today we've got Brian Kupiec with us. Brian, how are you?
I'm terrific. Thank you.
Good. Well, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure. Go ahead and tell me just a little bit about yourself in terms of where you're from, what do you do, and what's going on with you?
Stuff like that. How I lost my hair.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
Well, I'm originally from Utica, New York, and I think I grew up. Utica is a town in upstate New York, a town of about 50,000 people at the time I grew up there, and it was very diverse culturally. Ethnically, and I owe, I think, pretty much everything I turned into as an adult from having grown up in that town in that era. Spent some time in the Air Force, spent some time living in the South, in Knoxville, Tennessee, eventually wound up in New Haven, Connecticut, and from there moved here. There's a lot of stuff missing in there, and I don't know how much detail you want.
Yeah, we can get to that for okay. Sure. So when did you start playing music?
I didn't. Music has been essential in my life since I was about 10 or 11 years old. My mother sang, not professionally, but she always sang around the house. She always played records around the house. She was a great dancer. And so music was something that was always around me, and I always loved it. And I started buying records as soon as I could was getting money from anywhere. I started buying records and dancing. Dance for me through high school. Dance rather than playing an instrument was the music of my life, and that's how it was the social aspect. It's it's how we met girls. I started playing to get more specifically to your question. I told you I tend to veer off.
No, that's good. That's good.
I started playing the guitar after I went into the service. So I was 18 when I started playing the guitar. Okay. And I learned finger-picking style from a Hawaiian fella that I was stationed with, and
awesome.
Taught me a lot of Dylan and Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Phil Ox, and those kinds of people. So that was the music that I learned the guitar with.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that was going to be my next question. What are some of your influences for wanting to start playing the guitar?
Yeah, chicks. That was just like the dancing was very important in high school in order for me to playing the guitar was more, and that's I am only half kidding there. More seriously though, I wanted to. Some people just have the music in them and they have to let it out, and some people let it out through instruments, some people let it out through dance art, things like that, and it just came time when I wanted to do something instrumentally. So, and that's why I got busy with the guitar, and I happened to be very lucky. I was fortunate at the time that there were other people around me in the Air Force, stationed in Southern California. There were other people around me who were very good, and they were willing to take time and show me this and show me that. Yeah. And I didn't have a trajectory in mind musically at that point. I was just sponging everything in.
When did you figure out, like, hey, I would like to maybe pursue this and try and play out, or?
I was probably, I always played with other folks as I was growing a career and growing a family, and played out at parties sometimes, but never really gigged. And that didn't really happen until I was probably close to 40 when I started playing out, actively looking for opportunities, putting bands together. Sure. And that motivation just came from getting bored with the environment I was playing music in. It's fun. Sure. But if you go to and I guess that was fed by some open mics too. You go to a couple of open mics and right away you want to go back and be in front of people. And so
it's true.
I started going to open mics when I was in my 30s, and by the time I hit 40, I just said, well, we got to do something.
Now, speaking of playing out and kind of that
need to be in front of a mic just playing and you know, just kind of being creative. Has coronavirus kind of, I don't know, taken a toll on that, you know, mentally for you in terms of not being able to at all?
Yeah, sure it has. Maybe more, and although I know you can't really separate the threads, but more, I would say it's more of an emotional impact than a psychological impact. But
totally.
Sure it has, and it can't help but do that. I mean, I was playing a lot. I was doing we were in our 6th year at SIPS in Southwest Harbor doing a Monday night jam, and that jam ran through the whole winter. So it started in November and then didn't end in June until June. And then in June, I was playing happy hour every Friday through the whole tourist season. And that was going on for 6 years. And along with that, I had some ad hoc things that I was doing. I had a group called Wake Up Mama and another group called Cottywomple. And we were gigging at various restaurants around Southwest Harbor.
Has it been pretty sparse now, though?
Oh yeah. Everything pretty much dried up instantly.
Yeah, it was. When Gus and I were talking about that, how it seemed like it was like, oh yeah, there's something going on in China right now, and then in like 3 days,
right,
everything was shut down.
Yep.
It was crazy.
I remember that when we were going through the winter, and I'm always careful about colds and the flu. I mean, running an open jam, you know, I've got people coming up to the mics all the time, and so I bought this stuff called micro foam.
Oh, nice.
You know, so you spray it on, you wipe it down, and I bought these little condoms for the microphones, and but you know, somebody would cough, and I would keep a mental note of who they were and try to change mics if they came up and they wanted to be the person to sing.
Right.
But having, you know, so I was already not paranoid, but I was already sensitive to how easy it was to catch things in that thing, and then suddenly, as you say, boom, what's going on in China? And I started talking to Jen Worcester, who owns SIPS, about how long we were going to keep going, and you know, 1 week, well, we're going to try to keep going, and then 4 days later, we're not only are we going to try to keep going, we're just going to shut everything down.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it was crazy, and it's funny because I used to work at SIPS when they first opened.
You mentioned that,
in high school for Jen.
And so what year was that?
That was, oh gosh, I was probably 15.
2006?
15 or 16. Yeah, it must have been. I graduated high school in 2007, and so I was probably 15 or 16 when I started there. So yeah, it was probably 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And,
funny, can I interject a story?
Yeah,
here?
go ahead.
So my wife and I got married here on the island in 2006.
Okay.
2006, yeah. And so we were here, and we had she had made arrangements, so we were going to get married. The town clerk in Bar Harbor was going to marry us, and then I got on the phone with the town clerk to make sure she knew where to meet us at Eagle Lake, and she said, okay, you've got your witnesses lined up, and I turned around to my wife, and who was not my wife yet, I turned around to Karen, and I said, witnesses? She said, we didn't say anything about witnesses. So anyway, there was this whole frantic thing trying to get witnesses and calling people up and whatnot. So we get to the end of that week. We're going to get married the next day. We have witnesses. We called and let the clerk know that we had witnesses. I pop open a bottle of wine. We sit down on a couch in the place that we were renting, pour a couple glasses of wine, and the earthquake of 2006 hits.
Oh my gosh, I remember when that happened.
Wood stove is walking across the floor in this cottage we're in. So the whole thing settles down, and Karen says, I have been in earthquakes in Colorado and in California before.
Sure.
Karen says, is that an earthquake? I said, that was an earthquake.
Yep.
She said, you're not getting off this island until we get married.
Yeah, yeah, for real. No, I remember when that happened, actually. It was my brother and I were sitting in the basement of our parents' house watching TV or something, and it happened. It was like 10, 12 seconds, which doesn't sound like a long time, but
it seemed inordinately long.
Yeah.
So to finish the story, crazy. There actually was a segue there. So we wound up eating that evening at SIPS.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And it was it wasn't the first time we had been in SIPS, but it was the first time we felt like SIPS was going to be a permanent part of our lives here.
Yeah, and it's cool because I've been away for years, and it's cool to see it still there and thriving and everything. And I actually, while I was working there, I washed dishes and helped cook a little bit here and there. But I was just a kid, so and
you might have been there the night that we showed up.
I may have been. Yeah. But I actually played there a couple times too. I think twice, a long time ago. That was one of my first places I ever played out, like live by myself. And it was really cool. It seemed unusually busy that day, which made me really nervous. And so, yeah,
it's an interesting space to try to perform in.
It is.
There's nothing friendly about it to the performer. So
Sure,
you have to be creative.
You do.
In that space, yeah.
You do. But no, it's a great spot, and I've got a lot of memories there. So it's really cool. So what do you said you have a songwriter night there or a jam night?
Well, the jam, that's what
the
winter thing. I don't know if you remember Second Wind was a restaurant that was open for only about 8 months in Southwest Harbor.
Okay, I can't say that I do.
It's right now there's another restaurant in the place called Next Level Sports Lounge, I think is the name of the anyway, one of the owners of Second Wind used to tend bar at Sips, and so through going and sitting at the bar at Sips many times, eating dinner there, we got to know him, and he said, "You're going to open this bar," and I said, "You ought to have some music in there." One thing leads to another, and I finally wound up doing an open jam at Second Wind.
Okay.
And it was an open mic, basically,
Sure.
but we were discouraging, heavily amplified kinds of things, because it just wasn't that kind of a space.
More acoustic songwriters
Yes.
kind of stuff.
So this story does lead to Sips. Just bear with me here. So the Second Wind kind of fell on some tough challenges with trying to keep people interested there and coming, and it became apparent that they were going to close, and in fact, they announced that they were going to close. One of the few nights that they were still remaining open was the night of the jam. So the jam had some small level of notoriety.
Sure.
I was at the dump one day, and I was pulling into the dump in Southwest Harbor. The dump is a social experience as much as it is a place to drive
really
your
is.
crap. So I was pulling into the dump, and Jen Worcester was pulling out of the dump, and we waved to each other. We knew each other because she had seen me at the bar a lot. And in fact, I had played there once.
Okay.
And so I back up my truck to empty my stuff, and boom, Jem's truck pulls around and parks in front of me, and she jumps out of her truck, and she said, "There's a couple of things I want to talk to you about." I said, "Okay." So she said, "It's apparent that the Second Wind is going to close." And she said, "I've been trying to figure out some things to make Sips attractive so I can keep it open through the whole winter. One of the things that maybe will work is, are you interested in bringing the jam to Sips?" So that's how the jam got born at Sips.
Okay.
I said, it was folding at Second Wind. I wasn't going to say, "Wow, I'm not interested at all." I said, "Of course,
Right.
let's talk about it." And so, and so that's how it got born. We did it on Monday night. Started roughly in November and went all the way to June, and it was open all through the winter. And if Sips, Sips sometimes closed in the winter for a couple of weeks to clean or whatever. Aside from that, we were there. If you could drive.
Yeah.
We drove there and opened it up and
That's
had lots of local people. What I found out is that there are a lot of people that come to the island in the winter to vacation. That's what I said.
It's quiet.
It's quiit. So
If you like ice fishing or cross-country skiing, you're in luck.
or something. I don't know what it
or
was,
just
but-
sitting in the quiet with a fire and enjoying the snow.
Yeah,
It
you're
is
right about the
cozy.
ice fishing. Back when there was ice, actually on the bodies of water.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit. I was back for Christmas a couple years ago, and I couldn't even go skating. All I wanted to do was go play hockey, and I couldn't do it.
No, didn't happen.
Yeah, no.
So anyway, so that we were in our 6th year when we shut down this past March. So 6 years later.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely been weird, and all the musicians we talked to have said the same thing. And actually, it was funny. Jim Kaufman mentioned something too, being what he does for his research at the biolab. He researches, stress and the effects it has on the human body. Basically, he was much more eloquent than I just was. But he said one of the main things you can do to alleviate that stress is be with your friends and be in social places and have social, experiences with other humans. And I was like, well, we must all be super stressed out right now.
Yeah. Well, my wife is the great organizer and my social secretary. But anyway, she organized what we call the West Tremont Music Society.
Oh, nice.
And we've had 2 of them, and we waited until it seemed like there was an ebb
Sure.
in what was going on with COVID, and we do it outside.
Yep.
And we invite probably 5 musicians and their partners, and we do it outside and spread it all outside. And I set up equipment out there, and we spend
Awesome.
2 hours just doing what we used to do.
Yeah.
Except it's outside and
No crowds,
no
just
crowds
friends.
or anything
Yeah.
like that. Jim was at the second one that
Nice.
we did.
That's a good idea because a lot of musicians just need that kind of outlet, to if they're testing out a new song or
Yeah.
learning something new, to just play in front of people, and
Yeah.
we haven't had that. So it's been really weird. Now, in terms of music, are you more of a singer-songwriter? Do you do covers?
I do a lot of covers.
Okay.
I am a singer-songwriter, but I don't have a big catalog.
Sure.
And the thing about covers is that I usually try to do, not usually, I almost always do original arrangements or weird arrangements of
Sure.
songs that, and it isn't really anything I do on purpose. It's just I play what I hear in my head. So I hear a song and I like it.
Yep.
And I'll work on it for a couple of weeks, and I'll go back and listen to the original thing that I had listened to, and I said, that's, they don't sound
Yep.
all that much the same, but
Right.
I keep going in the direction that I'm going in. So I do a lot of covers, and oftentimes people don't recognize them because A, I pick obscure songs to begin with, but B, they go, is that song? I think that's that song. Maybe, is that song? I don't know if that's that song.
It keeps people listening, so that's good. Yeah. I love
For
it.
briefly, anyway, until they figure out if they know the song or not.
That's very true. So you've been on the island for around 9 years, you said.
Going on 9 years, yeah.
Very nice. What brought you this way?
We started vacationing here, when I say we, my current wife, Karen, and I, started vacationing here a long time ago. And it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a beautiful place when you're in it. And we started looking for, I was nearing retirement, and we started looking for what we thought was going to be just a little vacation cottage, something that didn't have to be in such great shape and was not very expensive.
Yep.
And we could come up here a month or 6 weeks
Yeah.
out of the year. And we were, I think I was saying this before, we were always like $20,000 short and 2 days late.
Yeah.
We would find a place, and the next thing you know, nope, that's gone.
Yeah.
But we finally found a place that was broken down enough that we could afford it, and there wasn't a throng of people standing in line to get it. But it's 520 square feet. We've since increased the size to 740 square feet.
Very nice.
So it's on posts. It's what I would from where I used to live, I would characterize it as primitive living, but it's not at all primitive living. But
Right. Well, that's the other thing about Maine too. That, and my wife and I talk about this because she's not from here. She's been coming up here with me ever since we were dating, 10, 11 years ago. But it's a little different though, because I mean, there aren't really suburbs here where all the
Right.
houses look the same and everything was a new construction built by some big conglomerate company. Everything is very, I don't know, quaint and old
and one off.
and right, and it's cool because everything looks different, and maybe a average house here, maybe back in some fancy suburb somewhere, it'd be like, oh, I don't want to live there. But here, it's just what's normal.
Yeah,
and,
the other
and that's how I grew up, and so it's weird, seeing all these huge new construction suburbs everywhere when I didn't grow up like that.
Yeah. And a lot of Maine houses have got what my wife calls the ramble. And our house does now too. You can see where the original house was, and then
Yeah.
there's this thing that's built off this way, and then there's another one that's built off that way, and that one's got one that's built off
Oh, yeah.
that way. And so
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So what did you do before you were in the Air Force?
I was yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in the Air Force
How
when I
long
was a
were how
kid.
long did you serve?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for serving.
Well, you're
it's-
welcome. It wasn't much of a sacrifice. Most of it was in Southern California. But
Yeah, it's definitely
the
beautiful.
sacrificial part of it was that it was in the late 60s, and here I was. I had to keep my hair cut, and I could only grow this little tiny mustache. And,
Oh, yeah.
all I wanted to do was get in town and smoke weed. And Can I say that? I'm sorry.
Oh no, hey.
Okay.
It's fine. I didn't hear anything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be in the Air Force when I was going into college, and talked to all the recruiters, did all the stuff, and I met in person with them and told them that I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and the guy started dying laughing, and I was like, what's so funny? And he was like, I'm 6'7", and he was like, you need to chop about 5 inches off your legs if you want to be a fighter pilot, and I was like, oh, I guess I didn't really think about that, so. That was my very short-lived Air Force experience.
Well, I'm grateful to the Air Force because when I got out of the Air Force, the GI Bill was actually still a thing.
Sure.
They have something called the GI Bill now, but it's not. It's really not a thing.
Yeah.
And so I, when after I got out of the Air Force and laid around and just did nothing for a while, and then when I decided to go back to school, I could.
Right.
And my parents never had any money. We were not people of means when I was growing up, and so there was an prayer in hell that they were going to pay for me to go to college.
Sure.
And so without the Air Force, I never would have gone to college.
Yeah. And I think that it's something that not very many people think about, really. If they want, free school, it's like, well, serve for a few years and get a couple years free. It's a pretty good deal. And like you said, it's a little different now. But,
yeah.
So
for people of my generation, it was a very good deal.
Oh, absolutely.
If you were willing to take it. And I think at that time you could aside from college and degree schools, you could also go to trade schools and I think have the GI Bill. So you could become a welder or air conditioning person and still collect the GI Bill.
Yeah,
for
see,
that.
that's so cool. Now, what did you when you went to university? What did you study?
I was a student of religion.
Okay.
And so, I went to two different schools. I was a science major in my first stint in college for a couple of years, but then I moved to Tennessee and was going to open a greenhouse with a friend of mine and just sit around, a wood stove and talk about the old times and just have a greenhouse. And of course that didn't go anywhere.
Sure.
So I went back.
That sounds nice though.
It sounded great to me.
Yeah.
I went back in school again, and that's when I was in a University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and at that time that was another one of those junctures where they had an incredible religious studies and philosophy department. I mean, it was staffed by really, really top-notch academicians at that time, and so I went there just really with no declared major. Got to meet some of these people, and right away went to the religious studies department.
Sure.
And so from there, I wound up going to graduate school at Yale.
Oh wow.
In the East Asian Studies department there. Okay. So Air Force and the GI Bill took me into college, which took me over to Yale. Now, I didn't. That whole experience I didn't add any value to it. Neither did it add any. I mean, the Yale thing. Neither did it add any value to me because I never really launched off in a direction that schooling would have made a difference in. But I did meet some great musicians during that time.
Well, there you go. It wasn't for nothing.
It wasn't for nothing. And wound up, in fact, out of desperation, getting a job programming some computers.
Okay.
Which led to a whole career afterwards, and led to more being able to meet and play with more and more musicians. There are I discovered there were an inordinate number of musicians doing computer programming. It's something about if you can think in music, you can think in computer programming.
It is kind of mathematical to a certain extent, and it's also probably you're thinking all day long.
I think it's the intuitive, it's the precise combined with the intuitive nature of both of those things.
Right.
So that's why you wind up with musicians as programmers.
Sure.
Or vice versa.
Sure. So when did you start getting into IT work?
Let's see.
Because was that, kind of when computers were starting to boom?
When I started doing IT work, there were no IT curriculums in college.
Right.
So
yeah, you kind of just self-taught.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was decades ago, and Fortran and COBOL were the big programming languages at that time, and so I did a lot of work supporting large financial systems, payroll systems, things like that.
Very nice. Now, have you ever? I know you've got what you're doing at SIPS. Have you ever done any sort of music on the road, touring, traveling, anything like
No,
that?
no,
Yeah.
no touring, no traveling, always,
Local gigs and
all,
shows.
yeah, all local, yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you?
A couple hours,
Sure.
travel a
Right.
couple hours,
Right.
that kind of a thing. But
Which can still be pretty exciting because you never know what you're getting into.
you never know
when
what you're going to get
driving that
into.
far away,
Yeah, yeah.
Any good stories about any gigs that you've been on?
Nothing that I could put into a book. The most
Right.
interesting things about gigging at places you haven't gigged at before is finding out that there's a cost. You need to get. I learned this. I had to relearn it over and over again. When you go into a place and you're going to play and you know what you're going to get paid, you need to be very clear about what you're going to get charged for.
Right.
I've been in a number of places with, I had a band in Connecticut called the Mill River All-Stars and the Rattlesnake and Daddies, two different bands. And I can't tell you how many times we went into a place to play and we drank our way through everything we made, plus we had to come up with
Right.
money so that was negotiating with club owners or restaurant managers was always, and I'm back in the, I'm a much more patient person these days, but back in those days I had a pretty short fuse.
Sure.
So a little short angry bald guy.
Well, you'd think a couple of free drinks would be included in the.
You would think,
Yeah,
right?
but maybe not.
No.
I love it. Now, and have you done any sort of recordings or worked on any projects with some other musicians?
I have. In Connecticut, I played with a number of different people, and I knew nothing about how to record or what the particulars of that were, but they did. And so we cut a couple of CDs, which never went anywhere, but we made CDs and we used to try to sell them when we played out. And here, especially during the COVID thing, I tried to engage. One of the things I tried to do to keep myself sane was to just do a lot of recording for YouTube.
Exactly. Well, we'll stick your YouTube channel link in the description of the video so people can check that out.
And I have a couple of Facebook pages. One of them I try to steer people away from because the angry bald guy lives there, and the other one has mostly to do with music.
Okay.
And so that's the one I steer people to.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we won't tag the other one.
Yeah.
But we'll tag
So, anyways,
the
during
Facebook.
COVID, I would, and you couldn't really get together with people, so
Sure,
I would
yeah.
try to talk people through how to use Audacity or some recording thing, and I'd record a file and send it to them, and then
Gotcha, like virtual songwriting kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is super fun.
Did some collaborations with a number of people doing that.
Awesome. Are those available anywhere for people to
They're
check out?
they're on my Facebook page and they're on YouTube as well.
Cool. All right. I know that this community of musicians, just from other folks we've talked to also, people say it's literally just the best vibe up here in terms of other musicians and partnering with people and not feeling competitive, but just being a partnership with people. And so it's really cool to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there are more musicians per capita, I think, on this island than any place I've ever lived in my life.
Oh,
You
gotcha.
can't swing a dead cat without hitting a guitar player here on the island. So.
Yeah, I might steal that. That's a good.
I'm
that's a
sure I
good
took it. I
phrase.
stole it from somebody. So.
I love it. That's great.
And talking about collaboration,
Yeah.
one of the nice things about both the jam and the happy hour at SIPS was that people would show up for the jam, and a lot of times the local musicians would they'd be regulars at the jam, and so in April, my wife and I were. Before the world ended, my wife and I would try to get away, and we would rent this little cabana down in Key Largo and go for the whole month of April.
Oh, nice.
But the jam was still going on, so I would contact people, mostly people who had been coming to the jam to just play for free, and say, okay, could you take this Monday? Because this was a paying gig,
Oh, gotcha.
And I would say, would you take this gig this Monday, and you take this, and I did that for several years.
Nice.
Peter Lindquist, Gabe Wood, Nathan Grant, Mark Cantor,
Yep.
Bill Haynes, Stephen Bowman, I can't, I'm not sure
Awesome.
who
Yeah,
else.
we've
but-
talked to a handful of those guys
Yeah.
too. Yeah, that's cool.
And then with the happy hour, and the way the happy hour worked was, Jen didn't really need me there on Fridays to play happy hour. I think that, honestly, she was just trying to keep me happy
Sure.
so that I would come back and do the jam again the following winter.
Sure.
Then it turned into an annual thing that I was doing happy hour every Friday at Sips
Yeah.
for the season. But after the first season, Jesus, it was so boring to go in every Friday and just play 2 hours by myself that I started contacting musicians, and I would say, look, Jen doesn't pay me a lot of money for this, but I will give you half of what I make. And I got her to agree that she'll give you a beer and a sandwich. And so I would get people to come in on Fridays.
That's a good
to
gig
play.
for Friday night.
Afternoon,
Oh, there you go.
4 to 6.
That's
you know?
perfect.
You play music, and then you have a sandwich and a beer, and you go home to your family, right? And you leave with $50.
There you go.
So a lot of the same people, that
Yeah.
we have. And Jim Kaufman, I had him in the last time we did it, when he was one of
Nice.
the people that I had.
Now, is the jam on Monday?
The jam was
Was
Monday
it just
evenings.
a kind of open call? Anybody that wanted to come could come and play, or did you kind of have to organize who was coming?
No, it was, and if you showed up, and I didn't lose track of you, and that's one place that my wife came in really handy, is that she would keep track of who came through the door, and if they had an instrument, or if they immediately went and started talking to other musicians, she would make sure that I knew about it.
Yep.
And so then, if they didn't come up and talk to me, I would go say, I see you brought in a whole box of harmonicas. Any
Right.
chance you want to play?
Right.
Saxophone case, things like that.
Gotcha.
And so, sometimes it was only the schedule. It was only scheduled from 6 to 8, but it almost always went longer.
Sure.
Because we were, even if there weren't that many musicians, we were just having a good time.
Right. No,
you know?
totally.
And so,
I totally get that.
yeah. Well, one of the guys who showed up and who I played with at the happy hour many times, and who would show up at the jam every week, was a guitar player named John Wixon. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I have not.
Fantastic. He's everybody's side man.
Okay.
It's such. I make a joke out of it, and he gets angry with me. But I say, when people will say, introduce yourselves, and first I'll introduce John Wixon, and then I'll introduce whoever else is up there, is that we're the people who play with John Wixon, because he plays with everyone.
Yeah.
So, he's a terrific guitar player, and
Awesome.
does some terrific singing, but never, that I know of, doesn't really front any bands. He likes coming in and being your wingman,
I mean, that's also a good gig. Just kind of stand in the background, get to play some
Yeah,
music, and
yeah.
hang out
And
with
he
some
was
friends.
he and Mark Cantor were part of the trio that I put together, Cottywomple, and
Okay.
we played Coda several times, and a couple other places. We've done some things for the community too. That's the other thing I do. Being my age, I had to make notes for myself. But we
no,
did we
no
did
worries.
we did try to pour a bunch of music back in the community. We did the Barn Arts Collective, the Common Good, Open Table MDI, the Senior Living Facility over in Southwest Harmer, and I did the Jessup Library, one of their Winter Series performances.
So
there.
those
were all.
You stay pretty busy then doing.
I
doing music.
was.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
once the Common Good opened up again, I was friends with Larry Stentner, one of the co-founders
Yeah.
of the Common Good. Did you know
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
And so I started playing at the Common Good almost right after we moved to the island.
Yep.
And so I would, for the last 3 years, even though Larry's gone, I've been playing every week, one day a week during the summer for them during the
Okay.
season, in the morning. And that's an interesting thing. You go, 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I can't sing to
and
save your life. Yeah.
coffee and but and sometimes people are milling in or milling out and they're not paying very much attention, but only sometimes. Most of the time at the Comic Good, people are very appreciative of the music, and they
Oh,
want to
absolutely.
talk to you and they want to tell you things.
Yep.
And it's very nice, and it's
Good way to get to know some
it
people
benefits
around
the community, it
community.
benefits
Exactly.
the Common Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So
They have just closed for the season.
Oh, have they? I didn't know that.
We didn't see it coming. They
Was
made
that
kind of a sudden
earlier than
decision.
usual? Yeah.
Earlier than usual. I thought I was going to get to play there a couple more times.
Gotcha. Well, I was just about to ask what's next for you. What do you
Well,
got
I was
going
doing that, and I just started playing about 3 weeks ago over at Charlotte's
Yeah.
Legendary Lobster Pound.
My wife and I just went there like a month ago, and there was an older gentleman there playing. He had a classical
It wasn't
guitar.
me, right? It was a different
No,
older
yeah,
gentleman.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, he had a classical guitar, and he was playing. We've seen him in the Agamott Park a couple times. He was
yeah.
fantastic. It was
John
really fun.
Tersiak.
Yes, I
is
think
probably who it
that
was,
sounds
yeah.
right. But yeah, we sat there, and it was a really great little environment
Yeah.
outside. It was cool.
Yeah, it's nice. I've had a good time there, and Charlotte and her son Gabe treat us really well, and the audience is not antagonistic.
Yeah.
I can't say that they're overwhelmingly appreciative, but
Right.
they're not antagonistic, and the music is not a draw. She doesn't hire me to go there because the music's a draw. She
Sure,
wants
like
it
house
to be,
music.
She wants it to be a better experience for the people who are having to stand around and wait
Absolutely.
45 minutes for their takeout food,
Right.
basically.
Absolutely.
And so I'm happy to do that. It's outside.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
we've had the 3 or 4 times that I've played there so far. There've always been 1 or 2 couples in the audience who just they turn their chairs and they sit there, and then between songs they'll ask you questions.
Yeah.
And that's really all. For me, I'm easily amused, and so
Yeah.
that's all it takes. Is if 50 people who don't really care that I'm there, you've
Yeah.
got 1 couple who want to talk.
Success.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, I love it.
exactly.
So
It's like that 1 out of 18 holes where you don't bogey.
Exactly.
Right?
See, that's a dangerous game for me though, because I love playing golf, but I'll have usually like the first 2 holes I'm like really bad, and it stresses me out all day, and I have a terrible, and then the whole day it just ruins my whole day. And it's like supposed to be fun. But
Yeah.
it ruins my entire day. I don't understand why. So Charlotte's, and then anything else coming up that you've got going on? I know it's just weird right
Yeah,
now.
it's very weird, and Bar Harbor suffered a setback because of the amplification outdoors snafu there, and so no, I don't.
Any Facebook Live kind of stuff that you're doing? Or?
I did. I haven't done any on my own behalf, but I joined. I have some friends who were trying to do
Yeah.
some things, and so I was, in addition, and in the lineup of a couple of those things. I haven't really done anything.
Gotcha.
On my own accord or for my
Sure.
own behalf.
Sure. Well, no worries. We're always looking for people to come in here and do some live stream stuff once we get that started up. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
I'd be happy to talk to you about that.
That'd be
yeah.
great. Yeah, we'll
you
do
bet.
that. Any final thoughts? Anything that you would like to mention?
Am I looking really ill? Final thoughts?
You look great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I
Any
don't think I
advice
have any.
for-
My
An upcoming musician around here, or in general?
my advice would be, and I think John Siegel said it, but my advice to people would be learn where to keep your head in terms of the mic, because
Yep.
people, they get up on the mic, and as soon as they hear themselves through the amp, they back off. Or they get up on the mic, and as soon as they hear themselves, they sing louder, and it's
Yeah.
horrible. But
Yeah.
so if you're gonna play with a microphone, try to learn how to use a microphone. A and B, and I think this is what John said: just do your own thing. Don't try to be someone else.
Yep.
The last thing I would say is what I tell myself every time I get up to play: sell the song, because if you don't believe in the song, everybody's going to know you don't believe in the
Super
song,
true.
and they're not going to believe in that song.
Super true. Yeah. Well, that's good, and I really appreciate you taking some time and just chatting with us.
It's been a
And,
pleasure.
we're looking forward to hearing you play. Are you going to do some covers, any
I'll,
originals?
I'll probably start out with some originals, and then
Awesome.
we'll see. I don't know how long do you want to go for.
As long as you want. You can play as many.
We don't
many
have
as
enough
you want.
Gatorades.
Well, we can find some more. That sounds good. Well, seriously, Brian, thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's been great.
It's been my pleasure. Thank
Cool.
you.
Absolutely. Thank you, and we'll dip out for a sec, and we'll hear you play some songs. Cool.
This is all right. I'll play an original. This is a song about, again, growing up in Utica. There was a place called the Parkway Gardens, and dancing was a very important part of my life, and they had dances there. And I used to go to those dances, and they were a potpourri of culture and attitudes, and this is a snapshot of one of those evenings. Life in the morning, life in the afternoon, life on the high side and yet a low down living too. They was young, they was going wrong. They wasn't bad, just that they wasn't strong. Life moves on, leaves us all behind. She said, have yourself good rhythm, little Charlie. You still ain't got no rhyme. Charlie drove a cab, I heard Dinah caught it worse. Passed around one time too many, 5 kids in an empty purse. I still see them both back in high school, duck's ass and a mini skirt. Charlie's hands getting down to business, Dinah busting through her shirt. Boys across the street on the steps, the Chuck's eating pusty pies, staring across at her big blonde head. She was way up against his thighs. Oh my. Later that night at the Parkway Gardens, Hector brothers got into a fight. Big old boy named Corky P, particularly hot September night. One of the brothers was a boxer. The other one always carried a blade. Corky, he was mean, 300 pounds. If you mess with him, you paid. Everybody started dancing when the Detroit wheels began to wail. And Corky and the Hectors, well, they danced for a while, and then the coppers took them all off to jail. Talking to Johnny Morocco, talking as fast as I can. He ain't paying me no attention, I ain't some sweet young thing already making his plan. Oh, now he shuffles on over to her. She watches him as he moves. Now we got her out on the dance floor, all about them shuffling shoulders and them shuffling shoes. I think tonight could go on forever for anybody willing to take a chance. Smoking me some Pall Mall cigarettes, I'm watching my friend Johnny Morocco dance. Woohoo! I'll do another original song. This is a song about love and how it can go wrong. Drank coffee in the morning, afternoons it was gin. Caffeine made him feisty, yeah, but the other made him sin. Charlie Stringer was a gambling man. He gambled love and chance in life. Thought he was cool, being nobody's fool. Fact was, he wasn't very nice. He said, maybe I'll spin one up and burn it down, leaving town. I may never even come back here, never really liked you people anyhow. Charlie moved through a daze of haze, schemes and bullshit and dice. Always working on a rhythm or a rhyme and never taking no advice. Oh, then one spring down in New Orleans, he got derailed by the swiveling hips. The sweet-talking Rita, Chiquita Bonita, what sealed the deal was them big red lips. He said, oh, baby, let's spin a couple up. We can burn them down, leaving town. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. She done spun the boy's head around. That's how Charlie got undone. It was a tricky little cookie from the South. She left the man muddled in a puddle of love, and she emptied out his house. Followed all down to Brownsville, tried like hell to get it all back. Got more than a little out of control, and the law didn't give no slack. He said, oh, man, I should have spun one up. I should have just burned it down right there in town. I don't know why I ever come down here. Didn't really like that woman anyhow. Charlie struck out with the bribes. He struck out with the threats. He struck out with that Texas judge. He got called on all his bets. Light shimmering up from the lampposts, noise chiming in from the street, fear oozing out of every single pore. Charlie is sweating that jailhouse heat. He said, oh man, I'd like to spin one up, burn it down, leaving town. Don't know why I ever come down here. She never liked me anyhow. Charlie and Rita, thank you. Thank you very much. You can't see it, but the crowd is going nuts in here. They're because of COVID, they're social distancing, so they're not in the shot. Can I do a cover? Is that okay? This is my wife's favorite song, and I sing it for her often. J.J. Cale is one of my favorite songwriters. Whippoorwill singing, the soft summer breeze reminds me of a lady. Oh, I left her down in New Orleans. Oh, I left her down in New Orleans. Magnolia, my sweet thing, girl, you drive on me mad. I'm gonna get back to you, baby. Oh, you're the best thing I ever had. Oh, you're the best thing I ever had. Whisper good morning gently in my ear. Coming home to you, baby. I'll soon be there. Magnolia, my sweet thing, drive on me, man. I'm gonna get back to you, babe, 'cause you're the best thing I ever had. Oh, you're the best thing I ever had. J.J. Cale. Somewhere I have a device. This here is just a silly little love song I wrote for my wife. It takes about a minute and a half. Baby, let the breeze blow your dress on open. Honey, let your red hair down. Let the moon wash over your shoulder. Let the evening be your wedding gown. Shuffle on off into the evening with your daddy. Baby, let's waste some time. Find out where those freckles and who we will make your blue eyes shine. Darling, you're my sugar pie, and you put that love light in my eye. Ooh-wee, you got good stuff, can never, ever, ever, ever get enough. If you don't mind hearing it, I don't mind telling, I don't mind singing it, I don't mind yelling it. Made you a promise, I'm here to stay. I won't ever, 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 ever go away. Called Wedding Gown. I'll do one for John Prine. I'm no woman named after my mother. My old man is another child grown old. Dreams were lightning and thunder was desire. This old house would have burned down, baby, a long time ago. Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster over an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to believe in this living, the hard way to go. When I was a young girl, I had me a cowboy. He wasn't much to look at, still he was a free rambling man. That was a long time. No matter how I tried, the years they roll by, baby, like a broken down dam. Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster over an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on To believe in this living was a hard way to go. There's flies in the kitchen. I can hear them in there buzzing. And I ain't done nothing since I woke up today. How the hell can a person go to work in the morning, come home in the evening without a damn thing to say? Send me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster, Lord, poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing I can hold on to believe in this living. A hard way to go. Are we still going? Are we recording? Oh, almost certainly. I don't check the mail. I don't go for a walk. You know what? I'm in the wrong key. Can you? Is that a horrible thing right there? Which, in fact, you know, after the John Prine song, let's do something peppier. Ramble man, don't hang around too long. Well, I'm a ramble man, don't hang around too long. Yeah, a ramble man, don't hang around too long. I like my women's large and my whiskey is strong. I'm a ramble man, hang around too long. Said I'm a ramble on down to New Orleans. Gonna ramble on down to New Orleans. Ramble on down to New Orleans. I'm gonna dance all night with the dance hall queens. I'm a ramble on down to New Orleans. Woo! Roll on out that 61. Roll on out that 61. Roll on out that 61. Let a big dog eat until the big dog done. I'ma roll out that Highway 61. Ramble man, don't hang around too long. I'm a ramble man, don't hang around too long. Said a ramble man, don't hang around too long. I like my women's large and my whiskey is strong. I'm a ramble man, hang around too long. Thank you.